Welcome back to the Wealthy Cowboy Show. It's a very special edition, the 100th episode. As you can see, I'm not in the studio today, but we've got a cool compilation of the coolest moments, the most memorable moments, the moments you need to listen to again of the last 100 episodes. The most popular episodes, we picked some parts out of each one of those, and going to play them for y'all. And if you want to be successful going into the new year, maybe you want to listen to this a few times, watch this a few times, because very impactful moments that we've had on here on the show in the past with all the awesome guests that we've had. So check it out.
Basically give them vaccines and mark them with a brand or ear tag or earmark or whatever it is, and roll on, and we don't ever think about it, but the whole rest of the world doesn't have a clue.
That's right. But that's our job as ag-related content creators, is to explain to those people why we're doing it and what the benefit to not only to us but to the animal is. Because if we don't control that narrative and we don't take it over and say, hey, I know you've seen this on these, from media, from the news outlets and stuff, that this is terrible the way we treat it, but realistically, when it's icy and you're in your house worrying about keeping warm, we're out there making sure this livestock is getting watered, it's getting fed. I mean, we're putting our own bodies at risk, our own families at risk, trying to take care of them. And I think people in general are hungry for information now, and they want to get it directly from the source, like us or like you or the other guys that you've had on here, because we're the ones that are down there doing it every single day, and they would rather hear it and see it from us. And if we take control of that and we say, hey, this is, everybody wants antibiotic free, but you don't want us to let a calf die because he's sick, right? Because then you're going to say we're not taking care of our livestock, right? But it's just making sure that we do our job of explaining what we're doing and why we're doing it to the general public. And I think we can overcome these hurdles that we've been behind for the last few years.
Yeah.
And like that video you said that you had that kind of went viral, something like that, you really have to think about when you post it, because we've had things like that you post it and you don't think much about it, and then all of a sudden everybody's seeing it and all kinds of people are seeing it that don't know you, and they're taking things out of context or not knowing what's going on. And so it's always important, like we try to think about it, but sometimes you don't know what people are going to see in a video. But to recognize those things before you post, and kind of try to get ahead of the game and explain things in there, so that when it does go viral, those people know what's going on and they're not like, oh, they shouldn't have been doing that or shouldn't have been doing, Yeah. So that's the only downfall, is sometimes it can go out to a lot of people that don't know who you are and don't exactly know what's going on in that video.
Yeah, there's always going to be haters.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I had more hate like on that video, showing something that people could see as animal abuse, I guess, if you didn't know any better. And I had more hate from like our own community of like, why is he dragging him so fast? Or why'd you do it like that? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, really?
The ag community, I tell this same joke kind of deal at every conference we speak at, it's like, they don't get it, but it's basically like we're from the flat. If we can't find somebody else to fight, we'll just fight each other, I mean, and it's terrible about that, because you got conventional guys that can't stand the regenerative guys that want to do stuff, and those guys can't. And you got organic farmers against conventional. It's just like, guys, do what works for you and don't worry about nobody else. If we all know that organic farming isn't going to feed the world, but we all know there are problems with conventional farming and ranching. It's just do what works for you and your family, what works best for y'all, right? Don't but fighting amongst each other doesn't accomplish anything for any of us. It just makes us all look
we're
like
all
we don't
on the same team.
Exactly, But we get the same thing. I mean, we'll do something and we'll get tore apart by the agriculture community about, and a lot of them don't realize that the way things work in Nebraska or Iowa ain't the same as in Texas. It don't work the same way. We don't do things the exact same way. And it's like, maybe step back and look at it and think about it, or ask a question as to why are you doing it that way, instead of, ridiculing or criticizing about stuff. So,
yeah, I've always tried to, like day working, which I've done for years, is I tell everybody is a customer service, job. It's not really a cowboy job. So no matter where you go, you got to just do whatever that person says and be happy about it and make, your job is to make them happy.
That's my ability. And whenever we started that partnership there in Stephenville, my partner, he's a class act businessman and put together quite a big country. And he said, base hits. That's all we're after. If we catch a double every now and then, that's great. He said, if we ever was to get a ball cap with our brand on it, then it'd say base hits on it. And I said, amen. So we've been hitting base hits and trying to catch a double whenever we can. But we miss out on the home runs, grand slams. But
you also miss out on going out of business.
Exactly. Yeah, that's your worst nightmare.
Mm-hmm. I think that happens a lot. Like nobody wants to think about the long term, and it's all just like, what can we get today or tomorrow, and never, where are we going to be in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years?
Right.
And can we just, like you said, stay in it, cash flow, and just keep kind of growing just a little bit at a time, and then, eventually get to where you want to be.
Yeah, a lot of my deal is I don't go borrow a lot of money to buy equipment and trucks and stuff. We work with what we got because I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford, however, all the equipment payments, and I try to pay cash for everything. If I don't have it, we're probably not going to buy it unless we just absolutely have to, and just trying to be frugal, you might say.
Yeah. We talked kind of about your grazing operation and buying and feeding. What about the computer side, the trading commodities, trading cattle, and learning all of that industry?
The best way to learn about it is to go get in it, but they have LRPs now, and you can buy an LRP on a set of cattle and you don't have to pay the margin difference or collect on it until after the cattle have already shipped. So that's really helped a lot of producers on that end. I do some LRP, not all LRP, but because it does get a little bit costly on the price per head that you're willing to put up. And my favorite's pretty much just a straight hedge on the feeder cattle and stay in the upfront months.
And usually on that hedge, you're locking in your price, so you know how much you're going to make. And if the market goes up, you just lost. You didn't make that profit. Whoever put the money up did, but you're mitigating your risk.
If the board goes up $1, it runs off 50,000 pound contracts. So if the board goes up $1, that's $500. Runs up $2, $1,000, and therefore, when it goes down, they give you money. But if it goes down, your cattle are worth less, but the commodity count is offset. So you're kind of locked in. You just got to have the money available to pay your margin calls. And that's where a lot of people struggle with, or they don't have a good enough relationship with their bank the banker has to understand. If we're maxed out in the board and we're hedged and the board runs up, we got to have margin money. We got to have it. There's no getting around it. So that's my main tools of keeping a roof over our head is the risk management. And there's a lot of good risk management guys out there. And, it's not, you don't have to go very far to find one.
What's the best business advice you've got?
Don't be scared of anything, but you have to use calculated risk. What I've found is there's a lot of people who are extremely, extremely conservative in their business practices. And then there's people that are just wide open and they're just crazy, And I don't think the guy that's crazy, he might have a one-hit wonder and he's going to make a lot of money and then he'll probably lose it the next year. You know, just like this cattle market. There's a lot of guys, if you look at our industry, we're like 47% protected on the futures. If we have a black swan event or something, or the shorts get really high, they're going to be wiped out. But I would just say, don't be too extreme, whether it's conservative or super bullish. You know, my broker is good for me because I want to get after it. And he's like, oh, we need to think about this a little bit. Let's calm down. Let's put a little risk management on, you know, and which I understand. But at the same time, you can't just sit there in a ball all the time being scared. You kind of got to balance it. And I use calculated risk. You know, if I've got a gut feeling, I protect my downside, but I leave a lot of opportunity to go up. Mm-hmm. And if I think that this market's going to crash, I'm going to be 110, 120% short because I want to write it down, you know, and I had this conversation with my broker quite a bit, but if I go broke, what does it matter? I'm 28 years old, you know, I'll start over. And so, you know, I've made some money, but if you go broke, we'll just start over. I know what I'm doing now.
They'll say, you know, I'm not scared to take a risk because I know how to make it back, you know. But it seems like when somebody figures it out, how to accumulate it and how to make things cash flow and invest and start businesses and whatever the aspect is, then it's like you can take it all away, but they know how to get it back.
Right. And like I said earlier, risk is opportunity. And you don't have to be right every time. You just have to be right 51% of the time. Mm-hmm. And you will grow a little more than you were yesterday. And then you can grow a little more. And that's what I've tried to do is if I made some money, I try to invest it in a business or land or a house, whatever it is, to keep those dollars protected. You know, land's a safe long-term investment. It should appreciate. Housing should appreciate. And just sound business practices that are long-term successful.
I think you may get to see it in a bigger way. And because already there's people such as ourselves which we need the public auctions so that we can get the cattle. And most places we go, the auctions like us for the simple fact is when we show up, the prices of the cattle may go up a little bit because we're there to buy the cattle, good cattle. Mm-hmm. And but I think you are going to get to the point to where something like that could happen. Man, who would have dreamed that we'd be doing this 20 years ago? So what's it going to look like in another 20 years?
Yeah.
I mean, and so that's what we got to look at.
Yeah, I think you know, always got to keep evolving and looking for opportunity, especially now somebody wanting to get started. Like you said, you got to get creative. It's not like you can go buy a little piece of land and turn a few cows out and
it ain't gonna work.
You're going to get rich.
Yeah. You know, we were buying the place that Kim and I, where our house is, we started with 26 acres and we just went to adding this place and this place and this place and this place. And my banker, I'll never forget the first big chunk of land that we bought that joined us there. They went to the board of directors, and I'll never forget, my banker come back and told me, he said, well, one of the board members said that there's no way to pay for land in Freestone County with the cow operation. And my banker told him and said, you have not seen Bubba Rutherford's social media page. And I'll never forget that. But the simple fact is this right here. You got to think outside the box. I mean, don't do what everybody else is doing. Mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of like this. You go to the local donut shop or the local coffee shop, and they can break a market in a heartbeat. Just listen to all the old deadbeats that cannot succeed in what you're doing. People laugh at you and everything else. I mean, and they're like, oh, it's bad. It's bad. Well, man, don't hang out with those people talking about how bad it is. Find something good to say. And it's just like our deal last year when we had such a drought going on. Well, what we had to... It's not dry everywhere in the United States. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's somewhere it's got some moisture, and you just got to find where that moisture is, and that's where you got to do your advertising at.
Yeah,
that's basically what we try to do.
Yeah, I always say, go emulate somebody that you want to be like. So if you're gonna be like you said, one of the guys that is negative and talking about how you can't do it and all this stuff, all the reasons you can't do something, and you go follow that guy, I mean, you're going to end up in the same boat. If you go follow you and see how, just do the exact steps, you know, you can see where you got. If I do the exact steps that he did, I should be in the same spot or close to it.
That's right.
If I go do the same steps as Michael Jordan, you know, I'm probably going to be there, which most people aren't going to do that. But just go, whatever you want to do, whether it's in the cattle industry or sports or business, you know, just go find somebody that's ahead of you, copy what they did, and then you should be, you know, somewhat close to what they did. So, all you gotta do is reverse engineer it, you know, and go find a mentor and help them guide you along the way. They can probably point you in the right direction and maybe help you get there a little faster and avoid some mistakes.
That's right. That's exactly right. I've got right now where I'm at. There was about a month ago, I had to go through a pretty good sized surgery on my left arm, and I got my son. I got a 19-year-old, and he was looking at. He was wanting to do something different, and I don't blame him a bit. When I was 19, I didn't want to be there on that place, period.
Well, he made me go back and create a business plan, set of systems, procedures, guidelines, an operating manual, basically, that person could take. And so now we have more scale. And what that did is allowed me to focus on the revenue generating activities and the clients. Those are the two things. A great book to put on your list, because I know you often ask about books. A great book is, and I forget who wrote it, but it's an easy read. It's called The CEO Only Does Three Things. And the three things that a CEO, and that's a CEO of a major corporation or CEO of You Incorporated with your job. If you're a W-2 person and you're still a CEO of You Incorporated, the three things that a CEO must control in their business is the people, the culture, and the money. People, the culture, and money. That doesn't mean you micromanage all those things, but those are the three things that you're ultimately in charge of: is the money, the culture, and the people. And so we put systems in place for all those, and it helps you with that breakthrough. You need a system or a person. System or person. You usually need a system first before you need a person. Yeah.
How do y'all? What is y'all's hiring process? Because I know the real estate deal. When I was looking for something to do to increase my income, real estate's like everybody's natural move.
Yeah.
Especially in when it was booming. I mean, you go get your license, you're gonna get listings and sales just because it was so hot. And my mind was, in our small town, we have, I don't know, like 10 or 15 realtors, and I'm like, there's too much competition.
A lot of them.
There's too much competition, and a bunch of people I know, like through my network, they're selling all over Texas and all over everywhere. So I was like, there's too much competition. So I found life insurance first. Now I've got into credit card processing because I don't know anybody doing those.
Yep.
And it's not everywhere. It's something that's necessary, but not everywhere.
100%.
But insurance and
it's probably got a stream of income attached to it. More than a one-time transaction, I would think.
Yeah. You're not only as good as your last sale or your next sale. But those industries as well as real estate seem to me like, I mean, I wasn't in real estate, but I can talk about insurance as a big one, is the recruiting. And they want any sales job that is just commission based. They don't have to pay that person, so they just bring everybody on. And the law of large numbers, there's going to be a couple people that produce.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. I want to focus on selling my product. And then if I can onboard some people that are going to be good and successful in the industry, then that's awesome. But how do y'all go about doing that, not recruiting every warm body that can go get a real estate license?
Yeah. Great question. I think as a business, you use your charisma to grow the business, to attract talent, to attract clients, but you have to use your character to run the business. And I think a productive business and a productive environment attracts a lot of productive people. My number one job, to answer your question, is today for the business. Now, this isn't for my clients. This isn't for selling properties that we list, et cetera. But my number one job for the business is attracting talent. How can we attract talent, the best talent? We've been hiring agents in the Mock Ranches group, which is our company. We've got offices from Houston to Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio. My churn over the last 10 years has only been 4. I've only had 4 agents leave the company in 10 years. The industry average is about 35% churn per year. We've only had 4 leave. We hire very slow. And we probably talk to 30 or 40 agents for everyone that gets an interview. And then we'll interview a dozen for everyone that we take to the process of a 30, 60, 90 to see if they're going to make it. And then, about half of them make it out of that to actually become an agent on our team, because I agree with you. There's probably 60% too many agents in the country. You can look at the percentage of them that actually make a full-time living. You don't see.
Jody turned out he was a Purina clinician at the time, and he was looking for an apprentice. So Bubba had called and said, "Hey, we may have an opportunity for you if you're still interested." And I said, "Dang right." So he said, "Well, I'll be here at 6 o'clock in the morning." I said, "I'm in Stephenville right now. I'm going to leave here at 3 o'clock in the morning." So anyway, I did. I left at 3 o'clock that next morning and drove down there. And when I got to the front gate there between Fredericksburg and Kerrville, and this place is a big deer-proof fence. It's got a big white limestone rock entrance at the front, and the gate was locked. Like, damn, this is like we were talking about a while ago. This is before cell phones.
Yeah.
I had what am I going to do? So hell, I climbed my ass over the fence, and I walked about a mile and a half up there to the barn, and there was this guy sitting on a bench right outside the saddle house there at the barn. And I said, "I'm Chad Decker. I'm here for an interview with Jody Cunningham." And he said, "Well, there won't be no interview." I said, "God damn, mister, I drove 3 hours down here." I said, "And the damn gate's locked." He said, "The damn gate's locked for a purpose." He said, "I locked the damn gate, see how bad you want a job. That's why there's no interview. You walked up here and got yourself a job, and that's all I needed to see." I thought it was pretty shitty at the time, but it was a pretty cool way to do it.
Yeah. Testing you a little bit.
Yeah, testing your water. If anybody wants to walk a mile and a half in the dark to get a job, if they don't know if you're going to get it or not. So that was one of the coolest things that ever happened to me as far as getting a job.
Yeah. And you probably wouldn't have down in that area. I've worked down there some, like same kind of situation. You get to electric gate, didn't get the code or whatever,
Yeah.
It's like, what are you going to do? I have a cell phone, but I don't have any service.
Right.
So it's just figure out a way. Wait for, hopefully somebody's fixing to come by, or figure out how to rig it up and get in.
Yeah, man, I tell you that. And I tell kids that, that work for me today, I try to use that story sometimes, because you never know what's on the other side of that gate.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't open it, you're never going to see it. So always climb that fence.
Yeah.
Or if there's an open door, always look through it, because you never know what's on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I never dreamed in a million years that I'd be in the restaurant business by any means. And that's been, my biggest success story so far is being able to be a part of the growth of Hard 8 and putting Hard 8 together.
Yeah, it's. I always say that it's like it's not the resources you have; it's how resourceful you are, and turning one situation into learning from it and going to the next thing and getting you further in life. And,
right.
It's always about just your perspective, how you look at something.
Sure. Yeah, and I'll be the first one to tell you I've learned a lot from mistakes than I have from being the winner of the job.
I like to like your ranch name. I like to learn the hard way. It sticks with you.
Yeah. That was just carrying forward the name from Hard 8, derived from that. But we do things the hard way sometimes. We jump in with both feet and we figure it out. But it's been a venture for sure.
So where did you go from there? You started apprenticing under him, and
so I apprenticed under Jody, and he went out on his own. He had some clinics and stuff that were going on, and he didn't have time to stay at the ranch. So when he left, I took over the reins of the horse operation.
What's some advice you would give a young up and coming cowboy? Go to everywhere you can go, work everything you can do with anybody you can do it with. take the good and the bad and learn from them. Don't do the bad again. You got to go experience it before you know it's bad.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's places you go learn the good, and then there's places you go that, man, this sucks. I'm never coming back here.
Yeah.
But you learn something like, hey, I'm not doing it that way. Like, there's ways to do it better, and not knocking anybody's ways, but there's ways to do it better. And there's people that don't understand that. They've never been outside their little ranch, and their great grandpa did it this way, and we're still doing it this way. And sometimes it's a great way to do it, but sometimes it's like, man, that's bullshit. Like, there's a way better way to do that for both man and beast.
Yeah.
So it's like, take every advantage you can of going anywhere you can go. And like, I don't know, a few years ago, hell, I traveled all over. Somebody said, hey, come help me. I went and worked for them. Like, I just went. I went to Arizona. I went to Colorado. I went to Montana. I went to Wyoming. Like, I went everywhere I could go, and sometimes I went on my own dime just so I could see different country and be around different things. If you have that luxury, go do it.
Yeah.
Don't turn it down. Go do it. It might suck, but it might be the best thing you ever did too.
Yeah, and if you look at it from the perspective, like I started looking at it different, you're trying to make a living, but also, some people would pay to go experience that. Sure. If you can go to West Texas and see how beautiful that country is, that big country, and gather cows and drag calves, that's a great time. Or, like you've been to, up north and all that, and see all that pretty country and the mountains and everything. A lot of people pay to go do that kind of stuff, and you're getting paid to do it.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, it's a cool deal. Take advantage of every opportunity that lays down in front of you. And, you
never know what it'll turn into.
You never know. Or anybody that you meet, you never know that you're shaking somebody's hand or telling somebody hi, what it might turn out, what might turn out of it.
So I got a few just wrap up questions, just out of my curiosity. What would you say are like some non-negotiables that you have like daily? Like, is it you're exercising every day, you're eating something every day, you're reading, or like what would that be for you?
Well, I would say non-negotiable about working out, but I haven't been very good about that here lately. Just the fact of I'm getting older and freaking beat up.
Yeah.
And, this last year was a freaking wreck.
Well, you may not have any. I mean, some people don't. But
my non-negotiables my non-negotiable. If you tell me, and if I tell you to be at my house and you're not there at a certain time, then that's kind of my non-negotiables. And today I showed up late over here on your deal. Thought I had my ass shot for that. But that's kind of one of my non-negotiables. I mean, like
showing up on time, doing what you're gonna say.
And doing it until it's done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, do it till it's done, no matter what. And it was like this morning I got up and we had to weld a little old piece in the wind blowing. And I'm like, that's what my plan was today. And it sucked. I could have turned around. It was for myself.
Yeah.
I could have turned around and went back to the house. But I'm like, no, I'm doing it today. Like, it's going to be done. And we did it. I mean, like, we got it done. And it sucked. The whole time it sucked because we were riding the wind and it was cold as hell.
I think that's a good one. I mean, integrity, that's an easy one. You don't have to have any talent, any skills. Just do what you're going to say.
Yeah, no doubt.
Are you a reader at all?
Yeah, I've been reading a lot more. And I'll tell you one thing that I've done in technology, I've got Audible. And I listen to a lot of Audible books because I am in the pickups, quite a bit, more than I am anywhere. And it's just Bluetooth to your truck nowadays, and it comes on and it goes to talking, whether it be a podcast or whether it be history. I like reading a lot of the history, like old cowboy history.
If somebody, I feel like there's got to be other people out there that it's fine if you just want to be a camp cowboy and make $2,000 a month or whatever.
1,000%.
That is fine, but there's got to be. I know there's other people out there like me that have bigger goals and want to own their own ranch and own some of their own things and be able to go do and have the freedom.
Well, here's the flip side of my coin. All that I just said. My dad died. That's a couple of months before my first video. May of 2013. 2 months before my first video. When he died, he had $800 in his account. Split that 4 ways. Do the math.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't really have any debt. He had a pickup payment, and that was it. And he also had a really cool job managing a ranch that Leroy and I took over, and they gave us the job behind him because we were working for him. And so essentially he gave me a fishing pole, and it was a really good start. I worked there for 2 years before they sold it in 2015. They sold the ranch, and so That's when I came up here to Young County to work for Chet. Well, anyways, he died with $800. If I had to trade, you know, any amount of wealth, like it's like choose, like maybe Elon Musk. Like if I've got the opportunity to be the Elon Musk of rodeo or my dad, 1,000 times out of 1,000, I would choose my dad.
Yeah.
Like the man he was. Like he was a cowboy. He died horseback. He, when we were born, he was working. He was a camper, just like you said. West Camp at the not at the 4 Sixes, at the Pitchfork Ranch. It borders the 4 Sixes, but that's where we lived. It was the 2-story house. They've since torn it down. There were snakes everywhere, but and that was the life he lived, and that was the life he died. He was a cowboy. He was like Billy Graham mixed with Woodrow F. Call. The comedy side of my DNA came from my mom. My dad had some jokes occasionally, but like he was a serious man, and he was a God-fearing man. And faith and loyalty are the two attributes I would attach to his legacy. And 1 Corinthians 15:58, stand firm in the Lord. And that's what he would do. That's what he would be doing today. And he also had $800 in his account. He was poor, he was broke, you know. He had a good job. He worked his ass off, and he raised a family that hopefully we all fear the Lord. But there's just no question. I would not, if I had to pick, I'm picking him. Now, moving forward from that, is there a way that I can create a legacy like my old man had, but then also, you know, have more than we had growing up? And I think there is. We can get creative. It's not an or thing.
Yeah.
Thank the Lord, it's an and thing. It can be an and thing. It can be that, you know.
That's the message I'm trying to push. It's not, because a lot of people think, you know, money is the root of all evil, which greed can drive people to do evil things, and it does. But there are a lot of big money people out there, you know, that I follow that use their money for good and philanthropy and mentoring younger people. And just like you said, also that's what drives the economy, right? A rich person has a business and they employ a lot of people, and you know, it can change their lives. And
I think you said greed can drive a lot, and I think there's a lot of times that greed can. There is. That greed is maybe what drives people. But I think most often I don't think it's greed that drives people down this path of money too far.
That's who I'm dealing with all the time as business owners. It's like, and I've got myself into those deals where it's like you're going out being an entrepreneur, but you're real and starting a business, but really you're just giving yourself a job. You're not actually a business owner. You just got a job for yourself. And it's odd. I mean, like I'm working on that, trying lots of different things, seeing what sticks. And there's two ways to go about it. Like if you want to be, like most people that listen to this probably want to have their, you know, to live the ranch lifestyle, whether they own it or work on it. And that's what the two ways are. If you're going to own it, you're probably going to have to go do something else that pays better to start out anyway, whether that's buying a business in town, which is a great opportunity. And like right now, with the baby boomers wanting to retire and stuff, I mean, that's a huge thing that people are big venture capitalists, and all these people are going out and buying these businesses, boring businesses, laundromats, whatever they are, and, you know, improving them a little bit and, you know, putting some time into them and making them make some money. And then you can kind of step away and buy your time back and go do whatever you want, whether that's ranching or, you know, sitting on the couch, I guess, whatever. Or the other route is just if all you want to do is be on a ranch and you have no desire to do anything else, then go get a job at the Sixes, you know, and that's what you're going to do every day. Yeah. You're never going to retire. You're never going to own anything probably. And, you know,
you don't have near as many headaches.
Yeah, sometimes that's a better life, way less stressful. You're just, when the job's over, I mean, you can go home and sleep and not worry about anything. When you start doing stuff yourself, you have dealing with people and, you know, commitments and how am I going to pay this bill and how am I going to do this and I got to do this. And stuff starts stacking up. So it's a little bit more stressful, which I kind of like it. The stress motivates me, but everybody's different.
Right. One of the things we hear all the time, and it really burns me to the core, is, people say, well, must be nice, or you can't hide money. And I've already said this once, but my response to that, to the majority of those people, is you have the same 24 hours in your day as I have in mine. Mm-hmm. If you choose to waste yours getting drunk or getting high or whatever it is you choose to do.
Sitting on the couch.
Mm-hmm. Sitting on the couch, vegging out, looking at your phone, and griping about how other people are being successful and you're not, that's on you, And it's like, well, I work 80 hours a week, and I'm okay. I've lived the 80-hour-a-week lifestyle, and there's one of two things going on there. Either you're not getting paid enough for the time you're giving that person or that company, because if I'm working 80 hours a week, I better be making some bank, Don't you? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
If I'm going to give you 80 hours of my week every week, you better be paying me for that. Mm-hmm. And number two, if you're not getting paid for it, you're probably not as good a hand as you think you are, and you're just a warm body there that they know they can manipulate and use. So,
yeah, you need to improve your skill set.
Exactly. You need to go find you somebody that'll pay you the same amount for 80 hours, but you work 40 hours. Mm-hmm. And then you get some free time and you can go do some of the other stuff. Or you get you a second job, Our whole society, not our whole society, but a lot of people have just gotten lazy. They're not willing to work. And when they do go to work, they spend more time looking at their phone or just being a warm body, not actually doing something to get ahead. And then they hate on the people that do get ahead.
Doesn't faze this guy.
Yeah.
He's grounded. He's centered. His faith is steady, and he just goes right on with it, and he keeps on giving back. And I'll tell you what, it's come back to him tenfold. Mm-hmm. And if you can't learn from something like that, you can't learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you got to live with that abundance mentality. I mean, you're gonna put it all out there. You're gonna give back monetarily or your time or however that may be, and just know that it's gonna come back to you eventually somehow. Probably.
I agree. One of my greatest influences, and I don't do his stuff, but one of my greatest influences as a kid was Jerry Clower. Mm-hmm. I could do everything he ever told.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget something he said. God was faithful, or I was faithful with a little, and so God trusted me with a lot. Mm-hmm. And hey, if that doesn't say something, I mean, I don't care how religious you are. I don't care who you believe in as your higher power. But if you don't believe that when you're trusted, if you're faithful with a little, that you can build on that, man, you don't have much of a soul, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. I want to get back. So there are people in our group that know where you came from, and but I got to reading your background on your website. And it's crazy. You, as a kid, you lived all over and got to do a lot. Mm-hmm. And then growing up, you rodeoed and went all over. So let's go back and let's talk about growing up, who you are. I think there's a lot of people out there. You got a lot of followers that probably have no clue about anything but the joke telling and your fence company and what's now. So let's talk about a little bit of the history of Chick Wilfong.
We had that buried so well, though. No, how far back you want to go? Because that story, you know that it doesn't matter how far back you go, it just gets wilder and wilder.
I meet all these other parents that have no idea, no clue about production agriculture. And they're like, what is it that you do? And if they want to know more detail, I give them more detail than just the 30-second little elevator speech. And they're like, oh, my God, I didn't realize you guys did all that. And I said, aren't you glad we don't come after your job? And then they kind of get that, oh shit look on their face, and it's like, yeah, we do a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what Dad used to say too. Kind of like you said, you're working like 18-hour days, hustling, trying to make a living of it, and it's like if you just put half that effort into something that pays better, you're going to be very successful financially anyway. May not make you happy, but yeah, we could go. And you see that a lot. People that come from the country have that work ethic, and you can go to town and be super successful in a job or career or whatever it is.
That's a sad thing about production agriculture. Our greatest export is our kids.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make a living ranching and go to town and get a job.
And you wonder why there aren't any kids in it.
Yeah, but not only that, there's a reason they can go to town and get that job so easy. You know, they've got the work ethic and they do come with skills. I mean, we all say this, you know, hard to find good help, so I raise my own, you know, and then you export your good help. Mm-hmm. Like, sit here, roll my eyes at that.
What's some good financial advice you'd give somebody?
Ooh. You know, I'm a money guy, always kind of been a money guy. And for me, it's that reinvest in that dollar back into good cash flowing assets. And I don't care what it is, cattle, you know, real estate, something like that. And my wife and I, you know, we've got a good income. We still live like two broke college kids, you know, because I'm just like, you know, my job as an entrepreneur is to deploy capital and be very intentional with it. So I'm not going to remodel your kitchen for you, sweetheart. We're going to go buy 20 more cows or, you know, something like that. And that's what I've done. And then, you know, you make more money on it and you just put the house remodel off again.
Yeah.
And you
get
know,
addicted to it.
You know, like Dave Ramsey talks about the debt snowball. Well, we can do it the same way with income through these assets. And this is what always kills me about people in the education space when it comes to agriculture. It's always cut costs, increase your gross margin, things like. Nobody talks about raising the income. You know, if you listen to those billionaire investors, they'll talk about raising your income, but we don't talk about that in agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
Find things that you can do to raise your income. And some of that is going to be deploying capital, being very intentional. So you're going to have to do your due diligence, you know. Don't listen to this podcast and say, oh, Doug Ferguson said go to the sale barn and buy cows. It's a great investment. That's not what I said. You probably better learn how to market the animals before you do that. But once you have that down, yeah, it absolutely can be a great business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was actually listening to Dave Ramsey on a podcast the other day, and he was talking about it's really his audience, I guess, is kind of the older, like middle-aged crowd or something, I guess. I don't know if a lot of kids listen to him, but he was kind of explaining that. He's like, the people that really get stuck and get in over their head are people that are in a career or job, you know, that are already have their life kind of planned out, and you're not increasing your income anymore.
Everybody's got different natural tendencies for success. Some people can get up and public speak every day, all day, and never get tired. They never run out of gas when it comes to public speaking, and they get back on the mic tomorrow and go again, and they're good. Another person, you put them in front of a crowd, and they're going to need a vacation for a week afterwards because it just tanks them. They're drained. They can't do it. Same with accountants. Sorry, I got a cold. Same with accountants. Some people can study spreadsheets all day and never get glazed over, never get tired. I can look at a spreadsheet for about 5 minutes and I want to go the cheat sheet. Like everybody that works with me, from our CPA, CFO, banker, they know I want to look at a 1-page summary of everything in that spreadsheet. I don't want I don't want to have to calculate formulas or know how to work the thing. I want the summary page. And then I'll ask you what I have questions over, and I expect you to be able to explain them. If I say, well, tell me about this, it looks like expenses in this line item are a little bit high because I know what the models, we follow models. I didn't create any of it. I just know for our marketing budget's 20% of revenue. Okay, boom. Marketing's 27%. Show me, let's look into that. Are we getting more leads out of that? Do we spend more because we're actually getting more leads? Where are we at right there, right? And so some people can dig into spreadsheets and never get tired. I hate them. It exhausts me more than public speaking. So we have everybody goes through, if they make an interview, everybody goes through a behavioral assessment. And it's not to find your flaws, it's to find your most likely place of success. Because remember, if somebody gets to an interview with us, I'm very confident they're a very quality person. They're a high achiever. They're somebody that fits our values and fits our culture and our company. I don't post ads on Indeed, because I just hadn't met too many. There's some, but I hadn't met too many people that are not employed that are the people I want.
Mm-hmm.
There's some, and I don't mean that in an ugly or judgmental way at all. There are some. But most of the people that come work with us man, they're employed well, and they're an A-team player where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
But they're an A-team player on not a winning team, and I can come bring them onto what we believe is a winning team. And I'm not trying to be arrogant, but we do a lot with a few people. We got about 20 people on the team, and we do a lot with 20 people. We do a lot with 20 people, and they all have very big financial goals, and they all hit them for the most part because we're very specific. So everybody goes through behavioral assessment because, one, we've got to have a pipeline of talent for any business. Has to have a pipeline of talent. Football team, they got to have a pipeline of recruits, right? They don't all make the team. One of my best friends, a college football coach, Campbell University in South Carolina. He's coached all over Texas too. Man, that guy's his the head football coach of a Division I university. His number one job was recruiting. Number one job. The CEO of a business is no different. Your number one job is recruiting talent. Because if not, you get the job back and the business stops. If you're director of operations, your assistant, your top sales guy, your transaction coordinator, your ranch manager, if they stop, if they leave, they get killed, they die, they leave, you get the job back. Unless you've got a pipeline of people you can quickly go to stick into it,
Mm-hmm.
And so our hiring process is very long and specific. It's long because it took me a long time to explain it. Sorry.
Once you get somebody hired, what is that procedure that you expect them to do every day? Is it like they need to go out, they need to make so many phone calls or so much stuff online, or?
Yeah, we put them through a very strict 30, 60, 90. Max Ramsey oversees that. I tend to be a little more compassionate to people than I should be.
I guess I'll just pay myself that. And he said, okay. And he said, well, how are you going to get him business? Because we bought this commission company and it was bankrupt. There's no business. And I said, well, I don't know. I guess I just get in a pickup and drive. And so that was our business plan when we started.
300 a week and
300 a week.
Lots of work.
Yep. That's it.
So how did you do that? Like you said, you're building it from ground up. I know we talked about that. I like the business of sale barns. When you're in a drought and everybody's struggling, you're running your best numbers, but getting it. And there's some barns, when they get a bad reputation that you don't have the buyers or you don't have the quality or whatever, it's hard to build it back up. How did you build that back up?
I in my faith in it, thank God God sends you a good wife, because if I hadn't sent her, I wouldn't have been nowhere near where I am today. And I honestly believe that I had no, if you look at it, I shouldn't have made it, because, you didn't have everything behind you. You didn't have a family name. I mean, I had a good family, but that's not what they did.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I think when you step up to the plate, not knowing what's going to happen, you don't have nothing to fall back on, and start working. And a good friend of mine, he told me one time, he said, you can be out working trying to get cattle over here, and then somebody over here will call you, and you think, well, how did he call me? Where'd that come from? And he said, that's God, honor, and commitment. You're over here not getting anything, beating your head against the wall, and all these people send somewhere else or do something else or been doing business somewhere else. And you think, well, this isn't going to work. And then some guy calls, said, I'm going to send you 100 calves. And you're like, I'm not going to ask, just in case you don't know that I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just got rewarded for getting out there and trying.
Yeah. It was embarrassing moments and, sure enough moments that you don't know if. I remember the first day I walked into the ring there in Oklahoma City, and that crowd full of people, and I had just been sorting for my competitor, the guy I was working for, because he had a commission company there.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember walking in that ring, and I can't remember, and back then a 5-weight steer would probably bring 90 cents or $1, something like that. And I didn't know if he was worth 50 or $1.40, and then the next thing come in might be an 8-weight steer or a 9-weight heifer, and just trying to figure out what something's worth,
Mm-hmm.
when you're standing, you got about a half a second to set that calf in and not look like you don't know what you're doing, and that's what our boys are in business with us now. And that's what I always tell when they get started. They said, well, I don't know what something's worth. And I said, best way to do it is cheat. I said, when I'd go to the country, I'd have the market report. I'd ask that guy in the front, I'd say, Crothers, how big is your cattle? And he'd say, well, I got 5-weight steers. Well, I knew I'd write down what a 5-weight steer brought on Monday. We're riding around these pickup, and, I'd have them wrote down from 450 to 550, and I'd kind of get an average what they did. And he goes, all right, I'll send you those cattle. But I think just preparing, because you can't know everything. And when you're starting out, and I remember my wife one time, right when we first got started, older guy called and asked him about the market, this and that. And I was telling him all the stuff I heard everybody else talk about at the time, around the sale barn. And we hung up, and she looked over at me and she goes, does he know that you don't know what you're talking about? And I said, well, I'm learning that anyway.
Yeah. Are you, would you say you're kind of like that? Because that's how I am. I'm like, I just jump in. The biggest deal is getting started, I think. Everybody wants to like plan and everything get perfect, and then you never start. But if you just like get started.
Little secret that I learned many years ago was that do more than you get paid for. Try to just really do your best to deliver above what you're paid for. If you do that, it's sometimes very hard. Mm-hmm. But if you do that, everything seems easier. Mm-hmm. Don't just do the bare minimum. Do above and beyond. And that's what I said earlier, it's so easy to win nowadays. If you do above and beyond what people ask for, then they're like, holy crap, that guy answered the phone at 10 o'clock at night, or that guy, whatever. It's like, I broke a windshield out of my truck yesterday, and I call some glass company. We can get to you in 2 weeks. I'm like, I don't know what the weather's going to do the next 2 weeks in Texas. Like, I need you here at midnight. I need you here yesterday. What are you, 2 weeks? What are you talking about? And people who are cowboys that get it done, that aren't looking for handouts, like, you just go above and beyond in everything. Could you imagine if a cow was going into labor and you needed to pull that calf, and you're like, you know what? It's past 5 o'clock. I'll check on them tomorrow. Yeah. They're going to die. They're going to die. And I'm a big believer in Cowboy, but that's why we're the best culture on planet Earth. Mm-hmm. Because it doesn't matter what time, it doesn't matter what the conditions are, if it's snowing, if it's raining, if it's sleeting, we just get in there and we get it done. And we've lost that in America. We really have. We've lost it. I think it needs to come back. So I'll stop ranting. Go on with your next question.
What do you think? Let's get back to rodeo. And so you won the Canadian finals. Yep. And after that kind of mindset change, when that turned around, was it all just your mindset? Was there a horse change or anything like that?
Yeah, so Fred Brown, my mentor, had a really good old horse at that point. His name was Rolex. Brad Goodrich had made the finals on him, I believe, in 2004. And he was old school horse, like stopped all over. Every calf that you got to on the end of the rope was coming up off the ground. You didn't pop him around. There was none of that. And so he gave me that horse to rodeo on. No mount money, nothing. He knew how financially strapped I was. Mm-hmm. And when I was sleeping in the backseat of my truck, I just started hauling Rolex. He was dragging a little bit, and we just weren't getting things figured out. And I called him. I called my dad. And the next day, it was like a light switch. I started winning. That horse, I had finally figured out kind of his thing. Like, you couldn't ever tie him up. You never could tie this horse up. He would destroy everything, right? And he would drag, so he didn't ever require a jerk line or much of a jerk line. And I placed at 19 out of the next 20 rodeos on that horse. He was an old seasoned calf horse that did his job every time and scored like a freaking statue. And those horses are worth their weight in gold. Mm-hmm. And took me to the Canadian finals, won the Canadian championship on him that year. But it was horsepower and mindset. To be honest with you, the people are like, what does it take to be a great rodeo athlete? Does it take horses? No, it takes everything.
Yeah.
It takes everything. It takes a great mindset. It takes a badass horse. It takes good mechanics. It takes not making mistakes. It takes being able to handle the pressure. And for me, at that point, that next day when I went to that rodeo, everything finally came together. After 10 years of working my ass off, after 10 years, I was an overnight success. So that's what it takes. But I mean, horsepower makes it easier to have a good head, to believe in yourself. And so that horse, I think he was like 18 at that point. He really is what got me to the next level. And then I went and made the NFR on him the next year.
I want to back up, and then we'll get back into that. But you keep mentioning him. So Fred Brown, how did that come about? Because he's in Washington, right?
Washington State.
And you're
Missouri boy.
Yeah. So how did y'all meet up?
Yeah, so I'm a country boy from the cornfields of Missouri. There's not much out there. Rural communities, not so different than, out here where I live now in Texas. But my dad and I just didn't get along.
I'm always looking out, no matter what circle I'm in, what group of people I'm in. I'm always looking for those people that have that foundation. And I'm sitting back thinking, okay, what can I create that would fit that person? So that's how I do it.
I think Jeff was telling me that story about Prehal, right?
Yeah.
That's how you got him.
He was actually, he working for a contractor. We fabricate and build all of our own buildings and have forever. So when we would decide to build a new facility, a new shop, we would bring in the steel, the I-beam. My grandfather being a structural engineer, I would tell him what we need. My father would tell him what we need. He would give us a set of drawings. We would bring it in. We would fabricate all the beams and trusses, and then we would bring an erection crew. And Prehal came in on that erection crew and worked for us through another contractor, if I said for a couple of years. And then that contractor went off and we hired him. And what we would do is we would take him. He can do anything. He's probably one of the most intelligent men that I've ever met in my life. We would take him and he would either be on a welder, on a plate roll, in a machine shop. Whenever I'd bring, all of our equipment comes in from Germany and Italy. It's specially made. Well, when it comes in containers and we have to assemble it. So he would be on the assembly crew. So we just floated him everywhere. And then he's from Mexico and has a family and has a ranch in Mexico, and probably been with us for 6 or 7 years, and decided he wanted to go back home. So he went home, and I didn't see him for 5 or 6 years probably. And he just showed up one day at the office and wanted a job. And by that time, we had really started to grow the ranch, and I really needed that one guy that could do everything. And I asked him, and I knew that he'd come from his family ranch. And I asked him, I said, let me ask you a question. Do you want to be here in Fort Worth at the shop, or do you want to be at the ranch? And he said, well, I'd rather be at the ranch. That sounds a lot better.
Yeah.
So I made a deal with him that day, and we drove down and looked at the ranch, introduced him to everybody. He's been there ever since. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, always just looking for people.
Yeah.
And to build upon them. But you got to have that foundation.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I've come to learn just from listening and being around people and doing this, and then also like in my own life, kind of starting to pay attention. Is I would rather be around somebody with the right attitude and work ethic, and no matter what we're doing, especially like day working is you're in all different types of situations, and you may not like it as much as doing it a different way. But the person that can thrive in an uncomfortable situation or situation that they may not like and have a good attitude about it, and you can have fun around in a bad situation, it's like, dang, I'll go do that anywhere.
Yep. I definitely don't mind the hard times, or when things get difficult, because that's a challenge. Mm-hmm. I like them. But one thing you will not hear, whether you're at our operations here in Fort Worth or you're at our operations in Comanche, you'll never hear anybody holler, scream. It's just not how we don't get hot, and that's, I think you got to keep a cool head, and it's that way. I've never raised my voice at the shop. I get frustrated, sure enough, but I think that's a show of weakness for sure.
Yeah.
But you gotta, like you said, you got to thrive, because that's what builds character. If you can't thrive in the hard times, you can't thrive when everything's coming down around you. And I can stay cool under the collar simply because I know that the people around me, that we can carry it. Mm-hmm. That there's nothing that we can get into that we're not gonna get out of. We're gonna succeed. It may not be quick, it may not be easy, but we are gonna succeed.
Yeah.
So, and that goes back to the people around me. I can't stress enough how much the group around me is, how good they are.
When I was saying, I was just thinking about it yesterday. 2 successful guys got to push 6 head of roping calves out of the back of the indoor, and we don't have nothing else going the rest of the day. And he's running, and then this guy sees him running, and now he's running, and it's just like they're just hustling, and that's how my dad is. My dad's started in life started his grown-up life in a hellacious amount of debt, land, cattle, everything, and has scratched and clawed his way to where he's at now, and it's just, he has that mindset. You won't see him walking, and I don't mean just at a pace, I mean just in general.
Yeah.
There's no days off. There's just hard work and hustle, I think there's a lot to that.
Yeah, like you said, in any walk of life, and those guys that are willing to go the extra mile and put a little more effort in, they're the ones that are going to win.
Yeah, and that's how you get, just a little bit better every day, because everybody can go out there and run 50 head of steers, you know, but what are you doing the other times of the day? You know, are you just getting done and going back to the nest and waiting till it's time to get after it again? Or like, are you doing little things in between, you know? And I study videos all the time. You know, if I'm sitting still, I'm studying videos. I'm watching horses. Like, I'll video horses, and I was looking at videos of a horse today that I think's a really good horse, but he's not great. And I watched a video 100 times, and I'm like, he's just not strong enough in his hind end yet. And so I'm like, what do I got to do to get him stronger in his hind end, to get him to pull the ground more versus like pushing from behind? Like, I want him to get under and pull in the turn. And so, like, is that going to change my life? No. But am I tapped into the process all the time? Yeah. My mind's always on something that will help me win, you know? And I think that's how guys like Trevor have been so good, is just they're tapped into living it, you know?
Obsessive. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
To wrap it up, what's your favorite restaurant?
Texas Roadhouse. I could argue this. It's a cheap steak, but it's good, and they got great rolls. My wife loves it.
And the butter.
Yeah, they've kind of I don't know. We'll blame it on Biden, but when I was in college, Daisy and I could go eat for $17 at Texas Roadhouse. And so we would go eat at Texas Roadhouse all the time because we could eat there for $17. And now that $17 is $38. I'm like, I didn't graduate a long time, like 7 years ago or whatever. And I'm like, how did we go from a $17 meal to a $38 meal? And we still get the same thing.
Kamala said she's going to fix it if she gets in office.
Yeah. If she was going to fix anything, she would be fixing it right now. So.
That's pretty good logic.
Yeah. I liked the deal the other day. It said, it was a picture of a wolf talking to some sheep, and it said, when I'm elected, I'll be a sheep.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Where's the best place to get in touch with you? Just Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah. I some people would probably find it hard to believe, but I really try to get back with people. Sundays sometimes, or sometimes in the evenings, I'll try to respond to people on Instagram and Facebook and stuff. And I'm not great at it. I'm there sometimes, it may be 2 or 3 weeks before I get back to people, but my conscience won't let me not reply to people. And so I'll get back to you eventually, you know, and that's the best way. Facebook, Instagram, whatever, you know. And as far as like the relentless stuff goes with Trevor, like our relentless Remuda pages, that's probably the best way to do it because we don't run those pages.
I've always seeked out so I'm not going to ask somebody that's in the steel industry how to make money on cows.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask somebody that's in the business of raising cattle how to make money in the steel business or real estate. So I've always leaned towards those people, you know, like they say, don't be the smartest one in the room. And I live by that. Mm-hmm. You know, I have every Monday I have a leadership meeting in one of our businesses. And then I have another business that we have a leadership meeting on Wednesdays. And everybody that's around that table in whatever part of the operation that they're in charge of, they are better than me in that part. So I don't ever take advice from I don't ever lead for or go ask for advice from somebody unless I truly feel like they're better than me, mm-hmm. you know? So, and I think that's important. I think you got to surround yourself with people that are better than you because one, it makes you get up and you want to be as good as them. So it makes you kind of fight and try to learn and, you know, add more arrows to your quiver. So surrounding yourself, like you said, with good people, that is my number one, you know, goal is to take the people around me. And if somebody's around me, if they're in my inner circle, which is a small inner circle, I promise you they're better than I am at whatever it is that they do. Yeah. Whether that's here in Fort Worth in the operations up here, if that's in Comanche in one of the ranching operations, those guys are better than I am. And my job is to make sure that they've got the tools to work, you know, and make sure that I support them. And then outside of that, it's up to them. to make things, the day to day.
Yeah, all the leaders that I've studied have been like that. It's not necessarily that they know everything or good at everything. They know their strengths and weaknesses. So their weaknesses, they can put somebody else there in that part of the operation to feed off of. Yep. Just like, I think a good president of the United States shouldn't just be the best person at everything. They just need to be the best at picking the right people to put in those
You're
spots.
absolutely right. That's what your job as a leader is, put the right people in the right spots and then give them the tools. Is if they're growing, then you're growing. The whole operation's growing. And a lot of people lose track of that. And me coming up from my situation is a little bit different than some people starting from scratch, because I'll never say I started from scratch. My father spent a whole lifetime building a foundation, and I've got several siblings. There's 6 of us, and there's several of us that are very successful and have our own operations and are very good and well known in their own industry. And that comes from my father gave us this foundation. He gave us a good, strong foundation that we weren't necessarily worried about making one mistake and losing everything. Mm-hmm. So we could stick our necks out there a little bit and try, and try something new. And we always knew that if there was a problem, he was going to help us. Mm-hmm. So that's but the difference between him and I is, in order for him to build that foundation, he was the one guy that started it from the scratch, that couldn't afford to put really good people around him because he had to wear every single hat. Well, when you wear every single hat, there's only so many hours in a day. There's only so much you can get done. So I saw that, and I saw that struggle to try to grow another business. And not that he was more than capable of doing that, but how much toll it took on him. And I always said, I'm not gonna take that route. So the one thing I always said is, coming in underneath him, is I was gonna make sure that I put people around me that could, when there was an idea, I'd come up with the idea and I'd find someone like, who's a perfect person to carry that out. Mm-hmm. And my job is to go find that person, put them in that role, and let them go out there and grow that aspect of the business. And in order to do that, or by doing that, we've been able to grow substantially over the last 20 years.
I love people. And so maybe on the front end, I'm not as hard on them as I need to be for their own good, because remember, I'll preface this. When we hire somebody, we're making a commitment to their family that they can accomplish all their financial dreams and goals here. That's a big responsibility. If they don't, it's no different than you walking to their house on Christmas Eve and saying, kids, you don't see that stuff right there you could have gotten? You don't get that. You don't get it. Because your dad and I, or your mom and I, we didn't accomplish our goals together. I know you thought you were going to get it. You ain't getting it. Mm-hmm. And so it's a big responsibility when you hire somebody. Plus, they're carrying my name and brand and your name and brand and everybody else that we work with along with them. So it's a big responsibility. So we got to ensure we have the right people on the team, but also that we are doing our job to equip them. You can hire the best player in any position, but without a good game plan, without a good positions coach, they're not going to win championships. We can hire the very best ranch broker, ranch sales agent in the country, but without good training, good accountability, good coaching, and good models, they will not win any awards or have any significant market share in this business. And they'll be very vulnerable to a shifted market and to a recession, And so we put them all through a heavy 30, 60, 90, and they have to start off with, it's numbers of contacts, training. They have to express competency. They have to learn our systems, because I don't want them to run into I don't want them, when they have to go write a contract, to have to call somebody else on the team and say, what do I do here? And that bogs this other person already had a full schedule without that in it, mm-hmm. And so they have to express competency and learn competency and be willing to generate revenue for the team, be willing to go do what they promised their family and us that they would do, and that's go sell real estate. And in order to sell real estate, it's a math equation. You got to be in the right number of conversations. In order to sell credit card processing, it's just a math equation. You could tell me, I bet if I asked you, how many conversations you got to have every day, every week, every month to lead to the number of appointments you need that leads to the number of signed contracts that you take for credit card processing. It's no different. It's no different. If I could coach you not knowing your business, I could ask you what's your average sale, and we can look and what's your average sale, what's your average commission on that, or how you make your money. We quickly in 10 minutes I could have a performance. Okay, Crockett, you got to talk to this many people every day. Mm-hmm. Now, we have to have a plan to get into conversation with that many people. Some people it's cold calling, some people it's social media, some people it's different things, but it's just a math equation. And so we make sure they get real clear on that math equation. It's no different than basic training in the military. They should call it essential training. It's called basic training. And the only reason people don't take business basics seriously is because the word basic seems too basic. But it's no different than basic training in the military. Basic business basics, the fundamentals of business. If you do not master them, you will die in business. No different than in the military. If you don't master basic training, you don't master discipline, you don't know how to go in formation, how to clean your weapon, how to equip your supplies, you don't know your marching orders. If you don't master that, when you get into war, you will die. If you don't master business basics, basics of sales, basics of whatever your job is, when you get out there in the real world, you will die. You won't make it. And so our job is to make sure in that first 30, 60, 90, they're very well equipped for success. And we can predict that the promise we made to them, their clients, their families, and they made to us and our employees, we can predict success there, you know.
That if I was just listening to your podcast before I got here with your barbecue guy. So he owns his restaurants, but then he's got a ranch. Well, most likely he's got a ranch manager that runs the ranch.
Mm-hmm.
He's not running both places, right? You put the right people in place so that you can have those 7 streams of income. But we all try to do it all of ourselves.
Yeah. To build off of that, what are 3 truths about money that we're not told or maybe we're lied to about?
Gosh, that one I should have prepared for.
Or one main one, whatever you got.
That money has to flow. Money's like water. It has to flow. It does not stay stagnant. The banks do not take our money and put it in the savings account. When we deposit money, when I deposit money, they lend that money to you and they charge you an interest rate. And that is the biggest thing that one of the biggest things Nelson talks about in the Becoming Your Own Banker book is money has to flow. And it has to go through somebody's hands to end right back up in the same hands, right? If we're starting a war, all that money is going through the central banking system and it just goes right back into their hands. It doesn't matter what it is, all of money has to flow. And we don't understand that. So we take it, we put it in a savings account, we leave it stagnant, we pay off all that stuff, pay off our house, and that's stagnant money. That money is not working for us.
Yeah, make your money work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something that, yeah, for sure. You're mainly taught get a job, save, retire, not make your money work for you, invest.
Well, you're taught that, but you're not, people are like, how?
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what I read. Robert Kiyosaki's like, oh, go buy rental property and create cash flow. And Dave the Dipstick saying, no, pay everything off in cash. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to do both. How come that's not working? Because I was using all this money to pay off my debt and pay cash for everything, not understanding there's good debt and there's bad debt. And some things create cash flow. You just got to be smart about how you buy. Most people are so scared about how to buy something that they're going to lose it that they just don't do anything.
We want to teach them that like ranching is fun. It's not just 7 days of work. 7 days a week work, and then it's like beneficial. And so we want to teach them that too. So it's important for us to try to stay as balanced as we can with the personal stuff too. But it wouldn't be possible without Lane and Dusty and Brand.
Yeah, and I
helping
think
balance that.
The way that I think now, it's like I would rather work shorthanded and harder, and not be afraid to go fill in. Like, hey, you're going to be out. I'll have to work twice as hard for a few days or a week or whatever it is. Whatever. But I know that if I need to go step away, you do the same for me. And instead of having 10 guys around that are just warm bodies, I would rather work around a short crew and work harder, but it's a better environment. If everybody's happy and glad to be there and wanting to help out.
Yes, definitely. We don't want it to be a salt mine, but we got to be economically sound too and stay efficient and productive. So balancing all that.
Yeah. How did so? You went to Oklahoma State. You went to TCU, Ranch for Profit. When did you start 100th Meridian Ranching in that era?
Yeah, so after college, I came home and worked with my dad and family for about 8 years. And part of that, we got married. So Brendan comes and learns about, what's going on. And but even as a kid, I'd always kind of had the idea of like, it's my job to start to wean myself off a ranch salary, kind of.
People are scared of risk, and I think risk is opportunity because if you don't try it, how are you ever going to know it's not going to work? And if it doesn't work, I'll just catch them back myself and put them on feed. And so we went from paying $2-3 over basis to $2-3 under basis. And what I come to find out after 4, 5, 6 years is you can lose more in 1 hour outside, working outside, than you can being in there and studying your lesson and pay attention to those futures markets. This market's so volatile. One down move, it doesn't matter how many dead calves you have out there. If you're not protected, you lost $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. And I would say now, we're really successful in what we do because we do the day-to-day things right, but we're able to risk manage and protect those cattle in an awesome way to add dollars to them. And when those cattle leave, they've got $200 or $300 a head profit in them through our risk management strategy. But overall, I want to diversify. I want to provide jobs, and kind of my goal at the end of my life is whatever skill that I have, whether it's entrepreneurship or taking care of my employees or whatever it may be. I just want to leave this world a better place and try to use every skill that God gave me to impact my community. And you need to be the dirtiest guy on the place because you're the leader for everybody else around there. You need to be the leader of that operation, and you need to be the hardest worker. I wanted to leave something for my kids one day and make my granddad and my dad proud. I've had people tell me before, you're willing to work too hard. But the work doesn't matter to me. I want to use every skill that I got. And if there's an opportunity to do something, why would you sit on your ass and not do anything? I would say that work ethic is the only thing that'll set them apart. It doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how many degrees you have. If you're willing to put in the effort to learn, to work your butt off, I'm not smarter than most people that are doing what I'm doing. And I don't have a degree. I don't have the background that they do. But there's none of them that'll outwork me. And if you want to do anything in this world and you believe in yourself, we live in America with every opportunity in the world. You want to have 20,000 stocker cattle, anybody can do it because I did. If you're willing to work and put the time in and make it your life, you'll be successful.
Or any kind of activity whatsoever.
Yeah.
Horsemanship deal. And I started riding that horse in a war bridle at the rodeos, and oh my goodness, like I caught a lot of hate from a lot of people, but a lot of love from a lot of people because nobody had ever seen it, And then it's like you develop this identity, D-Mac and Buster in the war bridle, and and then people. What's funny is like I could ride the horse in a ranch rodeo in a war bridle and win top horse, and they said, well, the only reason he won top horse because he didn't have a headstall on. Like, yeah, that's it. You bet.
Well, that helps, right? That's part of it is standing out. Right. If you are riding a really good horse or you are a really good hand and you just hang back in the back and right. don't get out there and draw attention to yourself, then you're never going to win that award or stand out, in any aspect. You got to put yourself out there, and that's a whole nother deal. I've wanted to do that all my life. Is I've always tried to wear something different or do something different. I like getting some attention. I wear like a grizzly hat or like you wear a farmer hat sometimes.
Yeah,
I used to wear those and tuck my pants in, wear khakis, all that. You got to do something to break apart from the crowd.
No doubt. Otherwise, you're just like a herd of sheep. Everybody looks the same, does the same, talks the same. I mean, there ain't no fun in that. Hell, I don't want to be a part of that.
Well, like Waylon, our friend Waylon, he's got it mastered. He's any rodeo he goes to, he's going to be talking the loudest.
Oh, sure.
Walking around, he's going to be seen the most, and he wins a lot of those awards.
Dang right. And he deserves the majority of them,
But he gets that. He puts himself out there.
That's right. And you got to put yourself out there. But when he gets bucked off, he gets bucked off just like everybody else, or he misses just like everybody else, you know, and he takes that just as well as he takes the accolades. He takes the ribbon because everybody does it. And it's hard not to, you know, especially guys that are really the winners. I mean, when he's winning, he's winning. When you're winning, you're winning. When I'm winning, I'm winning, you know. I mean, it's like one of them deals where I've told some guys, you know, that want to run their face, I'm like, put 10,000 down. We'll go play.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. Y'all think I'm just a model? Like, dude, I've taken more of your money than most anybody in the ranch world, double mugging, like anything. Like,
Yeah.
I've taken a lot of your money. Like, I don't think you've ever taken any of mine. But if you want to talk shit, then put your money where your mouth is and let's go ride a bronc. Let's go mug a 600-pound steer. Let's go team rope both ends, rope some calves, whatever you want to do. I'm down, you know. Let's go tie a bull down.
Yeah.
And so it's like, put your money where your mouth is, and everybody, it shuts them up, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was a deal. Like I told you this too to your face whenever it was like 2014, I think was the AFCC finals, and we won it that year with Cash and Chris and McCauley, and y'all dominated. It was like you and Waylon and Cody Carter maybe. I don't remember who y'all went with then, but y'all were like the team going. And y'all had some hiccups or something, and we had a good rodeo and beat y'all. And I was like, "Hell yeah, we beat Buster and Waylon." And I was like, "We finally got you, Buster."
Yeah, exactly.
And we shook hands, but that was a cool deal. Not only, I mean, we won the rodeo, but that was a big deal to beat y'all. Then.
Heck yeah, you know, and I had my guys too the same way. You know, I mean, like hell, me growing up, I wanted to beat these guys because they were always winning. You know, I wanted to be one of those guys.
Not taking action and just keep pushing it back, and it goes in. I don't remember. There's several. There's a list of them, but those are the ones that stand out. Just because you brought that up, it was like getting in people's head and thinking that they can't do it, the self doubt, and then the endless planning and all that, and then you just never take action and never do anything, and you just then it's the end of your life and it's too late.
Well, I think that's exactly. I like what I'd heard that one book. I hadn't heard the other one because that's what it's all about. Like even today in our business. Because I worry about business, and then I got my family involved in it. So a lot of times I'll wake up in the middle of the night worried about. I didn't go to bed thinking about it, but I woke up worrying about it. And I'll go outside or something. I just got to get it out of my mind because there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
But you just, you get on that wheel of thinking, this goes and that goes.
Yeah.
It's
endless.
Yeah, it does. And I think just trying to. I like that baseball movie. Just clear the mechanism.
Yeah.
Try to keep your mind clear because I can think of all kinds of bad stuff, but I don't choose to.
And you can't control most of it anyway.
No, you can't. You cannot. Absolutely.
Do you got any good financial advice?
Yes. Don't live above your means. And I think that's what we've always done is tried to live below, and I can't remember, there's a book I read and I can't remember what that said in that, but we stay mentally broke all the time. I'll drive pickups till they about fall apart. I'll buy a new one, but I'll drive it till it about falls apart. And the same thing with equipment. If we can fix it, we fix it. But just staying mentally broke and humble, because I've seen a lot of people, arrogance sneaks in and they think they did it and it will take you down. And trying to keep up. If you're being, if I look over and Crockett's, man, he's doing this and doing that. And I look over at my pile of junk and I think, well, I need to step it up. Well, you may not be getting along as good as what it looks like. And so I said that keeping up with the Joneses, still to this day, I mean, like these land prices and stuff, we've bought some land and I'm thinking, I don't know how they do this. I mean, I just don't owe any debt on any of mine, and it still don't work.
Yeah.
So, but I can't do that. Everybody's running their own race. You don't know what everybody's doing. I'll be honest with you. We try to pay for it as we go, and God, like I said, God has blessed us unbelievably because there's no way that we could have done any of this or had any of this or been relation. I mean, just like your uncle, I don't even know how he got to shipping cattle to me, but he did, and I don't know. I mean, we visit and different people do. It's because you're over here doing something else and somebody must give them your number and you visit with them and go on.
Yeah.
And my phone is full of them that call in and there's so many, you just make notes so you remember who's who and how you knew them. And if somebody new calls, you're just wanting to, and how'd you hear, but I think just number one, start, and number two, just don't go out and go hog wild just because your competitor is or your neighbor is. Or
Yeah, you never know the whole story.
You don't.
That's what it took me a while to realize that. I thought everybody, rodeoing, it was like everybody was driving a new. They used to be Dodge pickups. Now everybody's driving a Ford, and then had big living quarters trailers and everything. I was like, well, you got to have that. So I went out and got it, and I was like, man, this sucks. And I was like, there must be some part of the story that I didn't get. And so Shady will say that sometimes. She'll be like, so and so bought a new pickup or bought a new this or what. They must be doing good or something. I said, no, it just means that they have a high payment. Probably. I've heard it now that I'm researching and trying to grow and reading books and all this stuff, and then looking back I learned it in real life, but most people will go and stay where the opportunity is, not necessarily the monetary compensation. So if you go somewhere and it starts out at low pay, but you can work your way up and eventually get to the better pay, and then also take ownership in the company and climb the ladder and get more responsibilities, you're going to attract better employees. And in my own life, that's definitely the path. It seems like I've gone, you go somewhere and you're just working for the pay and you feel like there's nowhere to go. You're going to be looking for somewhere else to go. At some point you're going to leave. But if you can give somebody an opportunity to grow with the company, with the operation, whatever it is, then you're going to keep those A players there longer and, for life.
And I don't want to forget the people at home too, because that's our team. So there's Bryn and I as a couple, but the guy who couldn't make it today, Dusty. So he's the guy who gets stuff done while me and Lane are getting distracted on side projects a lot of times. So it's, at different times, we had things out of balance when I was kind of like a one-man show. I'm balancing cattle, economics, family time, and all these things, and I get a lot of stuff out of balance. But I feel like now, with us as a team, we can fill in for each other better. That makes a more balanced, well-rounded kind of business and lives for our families, too, because we all have kids. We want to teach them that ranching is fun. It's not just 7 days of work. 7 days a week work, and then it's beneficial. And so we want to teach them that too. So it's important for us to try to stay as balanced as we can with the personal stuff too. But it wouldn't be possible without Lane and Dusty and Brand.
The way that I think now, it's like I would rather work shorthanded and harder, and not be afraid to go fill in. Like, hey, you're gonna be out. I'll have to work twice as hard for a few days or a week or whatever it is. I'll whatever. But I know that if I need to go step away, you do the same for me. And instead of having 10 guys around that are just warm bodies, I would rather work around a short crew and work harder. But it's a better environment. If everybody's happy and glad to be there and wanting to help out.
I don't need to be framing that house.
Yeah.
But I kind of like getting out and getting dirty. I'm a little bit blue collar in nature. And so I am going to go do that. But it's just so easy to win today because everybody is so soft. It just is. Now, I'm not saying I'm the toughest or the most macho. I don't even mean any of that. I'm just talking about putting in effort and getting the rewards. And one thing that I learned that really set my future the right direction was do the damn work without expecting the reward back. Just do it because it's who you are. If you have an expectation over yourself of, I'm going to make millions of dollars, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be successful, blah, 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 I'm going to show these people, and you don't get it, man, you feel like crap. You feel sick. You feel disgusted. You say, I should have known that's what they said about me. But if you just do the work because it is who you are, then when the rewards come, it's like, damn, that's pretty cool. Yeah. That's awesome. And so do the work, put in the effort, but don't expect the outcome in 12 months, 24 months, 18 months, whatever. Just do it because it's who you are. Create habits and rituals that stack and match the person that you want to be. And then when the reward comes, it's like, dadgum, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like Alex Hormozy kind of talks about that. I love listening to his stuff.
Yeah, it's good.
But he says he says it different ways, but basically look at the long term because the goal is not to get into shape. The goal is not to be healthy. The goal is to stay healthy, to stay in shape. It's not a destination. You want to do it throughout your whole life. The goal is not to get married. The goal is to stay married.
And that's, you want a little hack? You want a little hack?
Yeah.
The hack is never have a destination.
Mm-hmm.
Never have a finish line. You know what? I had a destination for myself. I say, hey, I can't wait to be a world champion. I'm going to be a world champion. I'm going to be a world champion. Guess what? It took me a long damn time. I was 32 years old when I became a world champion. At 33, the year after, I was the most miserable human being that I've ever been in my life. My entire life was rooted in being a world champion one time. And when it happened, I was miserable. I thought, what? I worked my entire life for this? And my destination was my downfall, essentially. My destination should have been as many time world champion as I could possibly, 10 time, 20 time. I should have had my eyes set so much higher that there really was no destination. It was just the enjoyment of the effort put in day by day by day by day. And because I had that destination, I literally sabotaged the next couple of years.
Yeah. Do you think you need to set your goals and your dreams that way? Because I've heard you talk about that. Like it was like you wanted to make the finals. Well, then you make the finals several times and it's like, okay, I need to start thinking about being a world champion. Whereas if you would have just started out when you were a kid and thinking, I want to be a 40-time world champion or whatever.
The greatest.
So you're never probably going to accomplish that. So you're just always be on the journey.
And that's the hack. I mean, if you live without a destination in mind and you just have good habits, rituals, you live your day and your life perfectly, and you like to work hard, you don't mind doing hard things, then when the outcomes come, it's just a byproduct. It's just a byproduct.
You don't tie your emotion to it.
You don't tie your emotion to it. And the other thing is, when I was so young, I just thought NFR guys were like the coolest guys ever. I was just like, man, if I could just make the NFR one time, because occasionally they would come by our ranch and stuff, and my dad trained horses and ropes, so these guys would come by and ride horses, or my dad would help them or whatever, and they would come by and I'm like, man, these guys are like gods to me. These guys are gods. And so I just thought, just make the finals. Just make the finals. Just make the finals.
And you'll be a god.
And you'll be a god. That's awesome. Oh, it's so great.
She ran into Philip. So there's little God things along the way that if they don't happen, this don't happen to me. And I try to break that down in perspective a lot. At least the older I get, the more I start looking at those little God things that, if they happen, okay, there's a reason for that. If they don't happen, there's going to be a reason for it down the road. You just hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I just finished on the way up here this morning a book called The Slight Edge, and at the end of it, he was talking about forming his company and the same kind of deal of he was talking about planning and stuff, and most people want to make this elaborate plan, and he's like, I just got out there, and he said this one thing happened to me, and I had to pivot, and then I ended up meeting this guy, and I followed up with him for months, finally made a sale, and then this guy turned into this guy, and then we founded this whole other deal because of it. Yeah. And he said, I never would have known, all these things. He said, if it would have been raining like 2 of those days, none of this stuff would have happened.
Oh, yeah. No, there's little things that happen in your life, and I don't care who you are. If you think about it long enough and you break it down long enough, if some little thing didn't happen or did happen, it could have changed the course of your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens a whole lot more than we realize. But if you do just take the time to really think back and look back on things, there's a lot of God involved.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
Yeah, for sure. I think also if you sit at home and not doing anything, nothing's going to happen to you.
That's true. That's what Philip, and I go back to Philip because he was my mentor through all this, and one of the best. I'm going to go ahead and say this because I know a lot of his friends are going to be listening to this, but it's one of the best and worst businessmen I ever knew in my life. But he had a knack for finding the niche, and no matter what it was in, he was all in 100%. One of the greatest men that I ever knew. And in September of 2011, I lost my best friend, my business partner, and my father-in-law all in the same britches. And it was a tough pill to swallow. I miss him every day, But I learned so much from him through the years, him and my dad. And, you know, a lot of other people have been influential in my lifetime. And I'm sure they have you and everybody else out there. But there's that one that you can stick your finger on. And he left a really long-lasting impression on me and how to conduct myself and be a businessman and, you know, surround yourself with good people. You may not know how to do it, but there's somebody out there that does know how to do it. And if they're better than you, hire them. You know, it's that simple. There's always going to be somebody out there that's better at you at something. But if that's what you want to do, get their ass online.
Yeah, I'd for sure. That like mentorship. Everybody I study. I mean, that's the biggest thing is mentorship, and you know that's how the world used to be. Is like it wasn't like you got out of you turned 18 and then went to college and learned from all these people and came back or whatever. It was, you know, you went and found a mentor at whatever age it was, 10 or 12, 13 years old, found somebody who's really good at whatever the thing was, and you just apprenticed under them and learned. And I think that's, you know, one of the best ways to learn. I don't learn sitting in a classroom, you know, it's usually getting out, doing the thing, learning some stuff on your own and then having somebody show you, hey, don't do this next time or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if it's roping or business or cleaning the bathroom, you know?
That's right.
That would be the success to all of our operations is our people.
Yeah.
So, and, you know, people see that. You know, remember, we don't struggle, especially at the ranch, finding people because the people that I have around us, you know, they're all respected in the industry. They're all good at what they do. They've all got great reputations. And when they come, they see it. You know, our ships usually run pretty smooth, you know, but that's not by chance.
Yeah.
You know, that's because of who we have out there. And the same thing here in Fort Worth at our operations here. It's always tough because, you know, they say try to be sustainable. Well, there's really no such thing as sustainable. You're either moving forward or you're falling backwards. Because if you're sitting still in the middle, you're really falling backwards. You're losing ground. So we've always got to be moving forward. So there's never complacency in our operations. So with that, it takes a special kind of person to work in our operations because we're growing every day, whether it's growing in sales or just trying to get better at what we do. I'm always pushing to do better. I'm not going to say things aren't good enough ever, but they're never perfect. So, and you know, the thing about it is you're never going to be perfect, but you can sure enough try every day to, you know, squeeze a little bit out. But it takes a certain kind of person. A lot of people want to get into something, and once things are okay, they want to be left alone. They don't want to be pushed anymore. And those people typically don't last, you know, around our operations. So I like the people that want to grow. I like the people that want to see it get better and take pride in the struggle.
Yeah.
So like you said, you get around, sometimes you get in a cow fight. You know, if somebody's losing their cool, can't handle it, they probably not going to, you know, be around long because there's always going to be a cow fight.
Yeah.
You know?
Nothing's ever going to go perfect.
No. But that's what I enjoy about it is because, like I said, I've day worked with, you know, some friends and you get to some places and like I said, you get that attitude and it's just from the time you step your horse off the trailer, it's just like, it's a beating.
Yeah.
You know, until you leave and you're like, I just want to get out of here and I don't ever want to come back. You know, and I always make sure that when people come to work with us that they don't see that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I want from the time they step their horse off to the time that they leave, they want to come back, you know, but it's not easy. You know, we still have plenty of troubles and things like that, but it's all about how you carry them out.
That's what I told Shady after we came up there and helped. I think she just came during the Cobra works, and I was like, man, it's like being on a vacation over there. It's just easy, and even if I did get run over by some of y'all's wild little crossbred calves, you know, it was still fun.
Yep.
And just like that, there's challenges with those crossbred, you know, cows and calves. You know, they're a little wilder and stuff, but we got through it just fine.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, you know, Colby takes care of all the Cobra side of things. You know, every aspect of the day-to-day on the Cobra, Colby takes care of it. And, you know, he knows that whenever the wild bunches get in there, he knows when to put them in, who to put in, who to have on the ground. And that's what it takes. You got to have somebody that sees the big picture, the whole picture. You know, they're not going to put somebody in there that gets hot and goes fast when they get, you know, that's what it takes.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that we have here in Fort Worth. The people that are in their positions, you know, they know the right people to put on each job to make it go as smoothly as possible, because no matter what job it is, there's going to be problems.
One of the biggest things that I've learned over the years, and I really think a lot of our younger folks don't understand it, but you know, right now, if a man could put together $1 million, which it sounds like a lot of money, and I know if you're 25 years old and you're out here, you know, busting your hump and you're making 50, 60, 70 grand, you know, and you've got a set of cows and you're kind of building wealth, start putting it together. Start saving. If you're selling a set of calves and you got 125 grand coming in, take 20 or 25, set it aside and start putting it to work. Because when you're 40, you need about $2 million. And if you can get $2 million making 16, 18, 20%, because it's out there, private equity, private credit, you know, there are other opportunities out there that you can make money that's in that upper 15, you know, north kind of returns.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take a lot, you know. If $1 million could sit here and put 150 grand in your pocket, but you're still out here working and doing your thing, let that compounded interest work for you. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much compound money, that's where it's at. And you've said it before in some of your shows. It's I like the best money is the money that I make when I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
and it's the truth. I think that's one of the things. We're always in that mindset of just work harder and try to, you know, try to get there. But if I was in my 20s, you know, one thing I would do is really start saving for real, and not just saving and putting it aside, but save it and put it to work, and let that capital kind of grow for you. Second thing I'd say is learn financial statements. You know, understand one thing: cash flow's king. You want to grow a business, learn how to cash flow. I think one topic that I've kind of worked with some of my farmers and ranchers, they've been in business for a long time. They're making good money, and they just want to invest in something different. So, you know, Cody Sanchez, Main Street Millionaire, you know, she has a good book out, talks about a lot, you know, washing laundromats, you know, Bar 7 Ranch, they've got a laundromat. You know, there's different ones that have kind of talked about different things that you can do that you could be a Main Street millionaire. Well, think about the tools and the resources that we have as farm and ranch folks, the amount of management that goes into what we do with the smallest amount of margin. Go put that in a business that actually has a margin.
Yeah.
Think about the profit that can be driven in that. And I'm not trying to, you know, advise folks to get away from agriculture. I just think diversify what you got going on and take your money and make it turn into more money. You know, wealth is a great thing, but it's not that you're trying to be, you know, some evil rich guy, but you know, you want wealth so that you can move and shake when you need to, and you got stability.
It gives you options.
Yep.
Kind of on that same deal, you mentioned one, but like, what are some good resources, books or podcasts or courses, anything like that?
You know, there's a book called The Speed of Trust, and it was a book I read early on, and I think for a lot of folks, selling is a bad word, and I think The Speed of Trust, I would highly recommend everyone read that. And one reason, I think it's all about relationships. You know, selling. You know, Crockett, you want to do business with me because you and I have a relationship. Whereas if somebody off the street and there's 10 guys lined up, they can just take their pick. But it's all about the speed of trust. And so I highly recommend that everyone read that, even if you're not in a sales role, because that speed of trust is going to help you.
Through those two things, to do whatever you want, to make $1 million, to be successful wherever you want to be, to become shredded and muscular, or, you know, lose weight, whatever you want to do, it's all out there for free. And why aren't you doing it already? You know, you gotta, so you gotta like shift the mind.
You said a lot right there when you mentioned buying the books, you know, get on Amazon. We've had 40 some hours of windshield time in the last week. We've listened to a couple of your episodes, and you asked a guy, what was the best investment you made in yourself? And I think you even did a solo podcast. The best investment is investing in yourself. And I was sitting there, okay, what if he asked me that? Making the canned answer. But I'm like, yeah, invest in yourself, number one. Cattle's been a great investment, but my gosh, you can buy these books on Amazon, the used ones, for $3 and pay, $7-8 in shipping and read those books and get so much out of them. Yes, we don't want to read books. That was the whole point of getting out of school. But here's the difference. When you're buying books today, it's a subject you're interested in, not that boring brain dead crap they made you do in school.
Yeah, I say that all the time. I've learned more since I've been out of school, grade school, and then I went to college for 4.5 years, and I've learned more, in these past 10 years, I guess, since I've been out than I did that whole time, or really the past 5 years when I started wanting to and craving knowledge. And
that's what life is about,
Mm-hmm.
growth, right? And I get asked to speak at career days, at different schools there at home. And I tell every group that, I don't care if you go to college, but you're going to have to learn skills. And, they gave you a free education. And I don't think these kids value it because they're forced to go to school. But I'm like, they taught you how to do math. They taught you how to read. You can walk out of here and teach yourself because you have that skill.
Yeah.
And then just pick a subject you're interested in. It's a lot easier to read a book when you're interested in the subject.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that too, like you could go, we've seen people be super, especially now with social media, you can be super successful financially in whatever you want to be if you learn how to market it, put it on social media, get people watching it. Because it's like no matter what, there's so many people in the world, no matter what you're really interested in, there's probably a million other people that would love to watch, or interested in the same thing. You could make a show about it or a page about it or a course about it or something.
Yeah. And, social media and YouTube, so I'm anti-technology. I still write everything down in a notebook I carry on my shirt pocket. And I hate to throw this name out there, but you look at somebody like Jake Paul, an obnoxious kid, starts making YouTube videos, makes millions of dollars having patty cake with Mike Tyson. I mean, life is so wild if you learn how to do something and do it very well.
Yeah. Just become a master in whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or not even a master, just pretty good,
And, that's the thing, going back to the competitive deal, and one of your past guests said something, same lines I'm about saying, I forget which one it was, but, he doesn't want to compete with the average producer, So many people are content being average. Oh, I just got to do this and I can make the house payment and pay it off in 30 years and make this car payment. And, I've got on these bracelets, one says fuck excuses and the other one says fuck average. Like what? Everybody wants to be average. So to be above average, it's just so razor thin.
Mm-hmm.
It is so razor thin.
I'm not going to just keep doing just the stuff that got me to here. I'm going to keep doing that plus some, and so you've got to have that mindset. And like I said, there's not many people that do. We have people all the time like, I want to do this. I'll come rope and I'll come do this and I'll come clean stalls and run the chutes. You're like, all right, we'll come over. Well, they show up with 4 head of horses saddled, ready to rope. And it's like, I went down to Trevor's a few times in my pickup.
Yeah, you gotta earn your spot.
Yeah, just to watch, like just literally to watch. And I think everybody wants to start at the top, but like the guys that I know that started at the bottom and are at the top now, they didn't start at the top. They've blood, sweat, and tears. And there's just not a lot of people that are willing to do it anymore. But there's not a lot of people in the winner's circle either.
Yeah.
It's in any industry. I'm going to say there's, 5% of the people that do 75% of the winning, and I think those are the people that separated themselves. And I think 90% of it's in their mind, just the mindset. I was thinking about it today or yesterday that now that I've got kids coming, I just wanted, I want them to learn things. And I was thinking about, just the motto, never walk. If you have a chance to jog. Because I was watching so we had a guy that real successful in the oil business and big in the team roping, just loves the industry and ropes a lot. has a son-in-law that makes finals every year, but like just really loves the industry, really successful guy. And we had got done tying calves. It was yesterday. And I was sorting some steers back behind the indoor, and there were some calves that needed run out the back. And I watched Trevor sprint to the other end of the arena. There's only 3 of us in the indoor. I watched him sprint to the other end of the arena and start moving the calves. And the guy that was there roping with us, the oil field guy, he was on the other end of the arena. He seen Trevor sprinting to move the cattle. He started sprinting to help him move the cattle. It's 6 o'clock in the evening and we're done. We're in not a hurry at all. And I'm like, these 2 really successful guys in 2 different areas of life sprinted just to open a gate, And I was like, there's something to that. I watch Trevor do it all the time. He never walks. If he has to go get a horse, he jogs. If he has to go help somebody, he's jogging. Like he's moving. It's never like just a walking. And like I was saying, it seems so dumb, but like that's a mindset. Like I can walk and get there in 30 seconds or I can jog and get there in 15 seconds. And I've got something to do. I'm going to go. And so I think it's the same way getting up every morning. Like, why get up at 6 when you can get up at 5? That hour ain't going to kill you, or just do it like me. I drink coffee literally all day, every day. And so like, I think there's a mindset that winners have, and it's not like just a kill mode mindset where like that guy, he just competes good. Like, no, that guy gets up and moves his feet. He don't got holes in the bottom of his boots from dragging them. If he got holes in his boots, it's because he's walked or run a long way in them, And I think there's a mindset that winners have, and so I always think about that. I'm like, don't walk when you can jog, in life. I'm not just talking about a pace of traveling. I mean, like in life in general, training horses, roping, running a business. Like, don't walk when you can jog. And I think that's the mindset that separates guys.
I know you don't probably day work with many guys that you don't know, but I mean, like when we were working calves all the time for Charles, I wanted to be if I was working the head, I wanted to be finished before the guy working the tail was. And if I was working on the tail, I wanted to be finished before the guy working
it's like a competition. That's how I see it.
I never wanted anybody waiting on me to finish my job. I wanted to, and not because I thought I was better than them, but because to me, it was like, it was a competition. I want to get my job done. I want to get it done right. Because when you do that, people notice that. And you're the guy that gets called back. You're the guy that gets promoted. You're the guy that, takes on those higher levels of responsibility within companies or businesses. If you're just showing up, 5 minutes late every day and you just kind of don't really get nothing done. And you're the first hey, I need to send somebody home early today. And you're the first one to stick your hand up. And you wonder why you don't have anything. I mean, there's a pretty good reason, right? Because you don't want much. So,
yeah, it's. I heard a good deal the other day. I've never had a real.
Should have brought you some Chuck Norris. We got some picked up there.
I've never had a real job. I worked for Sid Miller where you had to clock in and clock out, but I was riding horses and doing whatever. I don't necessarily say it was a real job, but everything else has been like, a day work contract type deal or something like that. So I don't have like the employee mindset, but a lot of people do. That's all they want is the security of being an employee. But I heard a really good deal the other day of if you are an employee and you don't want to be an entrepreneur and take that risk, just go to your boss and say, how am I making this company money and how can I make more money to where you're going to pay me more? Provide more value, and then just start working towards that. And whether it's staying late or taking more responsibility or something. And I think that's a really good way for employees to go up. And like my whole life, like when I was working at the sale barns, I was trying to figure out ways to make more money. The sale barn's going to pay me so much, but what if I buy some stuff for somebody, and make a little money there, or haul something to or from the sale barn, or take 3 outside horses up there and ride them, I'm going to make this much more money. Or if I take some dog food up there and sell it or whatever it is, I'm trying to figure out how to, make some more money here and there doing the things that I was going to be doing anyway. I think there's, whether you're an employee or a, entrepreneur, you could there's ways you can make more money and improve your value that you're providing.
As an employer, you know, the employees that are showing some integrity, the employees that are showing some those are the ones that you're gonna, you know, you value them. You don't want to lose them. You don't want them to go find another job. And the ones that just aren't doing anything, don't care. I mean, it's like, you're really just taking up space. You know, you're here to do what I need you to do. But other than that, I talked to a guy this week that at 16 years old, he went to work for a company, and now he's one of the vice presidents of the company. I mean, and he's in his 40s now. So he put in, you know, roughly 24 years of time with them. He wasn't not showing up to work every day, right? He was doing his job, and he was doing more than his job, and he was excelling because the powers that be above him noticed that and took that into consideration. So, yeah, that's a big. It's okay to be an employee, but be a good employee. Don't just be a spot filler.
Yeah, I think on Buster's episode or something on one of them, we talked about like it's super easy nowadays because the bar is set so low.
Oh, yeah,
takes that little extra effort, that little extra bit of dedication, a big payoff.
Yeah, like we've mentioned that a bunch. Like it doesn't take much nowadays. Like these are really good times to live in because like if you listen to an educational podcast or read part of an educational book or just try to learn something every day, you're in a small percentage of people. If you work on yourself, whether same deal, if you work on your body, you go to the gym or something, you eat right. I mean, just any little thing to improve yourself, then like you're in a very small percentage. Yeah. And everybody's so tied up in just the day-to-day hustle and bustle, nobody wants to do those small things, take the time to do it.
When I mentioned to you earlier, I was driving truck when I was younger. Man, you pull into some of them factories and you just see that zoned out zombie look on their faces. Oh man, learn a skill, learn a skill that's something that's marketable. Get out of there. But so many times those people look like they gave up on life, and this is what it is. I come to work here, I clock in, I get paid, and then I get to go to an archery tournament or something on the weekends. Mm-hmm. I mean, that for them, that's life.
Yeah, and kind of why I brought it up earlier when I asked you if you had a limiting belief on starting a class and becoming a teacher, mentor type person. Like, I think a lot of people out there have the skills and the knowledge to achieve success. If they go, like I said, in whatever it is, they can achieve success doing that thing that they love to do and create a community around it, create a course, create whatever it is, create content about it. And we've seen a lot of people on here have changed their life doing that thing, just filming what you do and filming ranching or whatever. But just like you said, kind of learning something marketable. And that's a loose term. I mean, you have a skill to make money that you're able to teach people to make money, but it doesn't even have to be something that teaches people how to make money. It can be just teaching people on mindset or teaching people how to shoot a bow and arrow or whatever. It's crazy what it is now.